everyone. Welcome back. I'm Lorraine Driscoll, and today I want to talk about leading into what what I was talking about last week, which was why childhood disorders are on the rise. So last week I talked all about why childhood disorders were so epidemic today, and then it goes so much further than better diagnosis and genetics. So if you missed that, check that video out. Today, I want to get into, I know that people feel overwhelmed sometimes hearing about that and hearing like all the different factors that could be contributing to the increase in childhood cognitive or, behavioral disorders and so forth. And so today I'm going to kind of help you sort out what could be triggers for your children or child. And it doesn't have to be super overwhelming. It's all about making healthy changes and making them smarter, not harder. So we're going to kind of get into that. So last week I talked about basically too much change too fast. And that applies to if you're trying to make changes in your own life, whether it's with your own personal, it's weight loss or something like that, or with your child's health. And yes, we know in the last several decades, children's biochemistry, their brain organization, so many things have changed as well, because we've strayed so far from our roots. And I know a lot of mums are overwhelmed with even beginning to think, where do I begin? There's a lot of mom guilt. I know I had it. And like not enough time, right? Today we have two people working in the family, not just one. So it's the idea of where do I find the time to do all these changes? Yes, I know that, people did this in the past or did that in the past. And I work, 9 to 5 and I have to bring the kids here and so forth. Where can we begin? So first of all, just to recap, the three major things that have really altered our children's biochemistry and brain organization is number one, their biochemistry is off. That's the first thing that's off, that's affecting their overall neurology and physical health. The second thing that's off is their brain organization, which I talked about last week and in previous videos. And then the third thing that is really easy to overlook and be like, yeah, I don't really think that could be a major factor, is our rhythm and our lifestyle in terms of our sleep, in terms of our stress, in terms of overscheduling, all of that type of stuff. So what I want you to do is I'm going to go through a list, and I'd love to see you comment below what you think could be possible triggers that could be the major culprits in terms of contributing to aggravating your child's situation or condition. So number one that I see is food, and that includes, I've talked quite a bit about the importance of gut health because the gut manufactures so many neurotransmitters and so forth, and so deeply affects our biochemistry. But food, does your child eat a lot of processed food? Do they eat a lot of sugar? Are they really picky eaters, so they're not getting enough nutrients? Is there signs, that they're not getting enough nutrients? And do they have like autoimmune conditions? And I don't mean even like what we consider serious autoimmune conditions. Do they have stuff like eczema, psoriasis, asthma, a lot of food allergies or seasonal allergies? Those are all really clear indications that something is off with their immune system and that there is an imbalance. Number two is exercise, right? So movement was we didn't have to have movement being so synthetic in the past. We had to walk more. Kids walked to school. People walked more here and there and everywhere. And now we literally have to have treadmills, right? And I call it that synthetic exercise, which I own like a mountain climber treadmill. So that's totally fine. But basically, exercise is not even a natural part of our day anymore. And so we have to build that in. And a lot of kids are not getting enough movement. They're sitting on hour-long bus rides. They're sitting at home. They're sitting at school. And so there's a huge body of research now that has come out in terms of how insufficient, or not insufficient, but too much sitting affects the brain, and how children actually learn better when they're standing, which is why I'm all over standing desks. Like my dream school for kids would be that there's standing desks for kids. I did it one year in the classroom. I managed to get some podiums and so forth. But and those, some of the kids just love to be able to stand, especially the ones who are prone to ADHD and so forth. So other factor in terms of our rhythms, let me know if this is a factor for you think for your child, is sleep. And it doesn't just mean, is your child going to bed at a decent time? Certainly that can be a factor. But if they're on screens a lot, that'll affect the production of melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. So are they getting enough sleep? Are they sleeping deeply enough? Are they staying asleep? Gut health can impact sleep so much. I can't tell you how many of my clients, once we sort out the gut health, these kids just have no more sleep problems. And if that seems far-fetched, consider like Lyme disease, right? Which is a bacteria. That is like one of the number one just absolutely debilitating symptoms of Lyme disease is severe insomnia, because the bacteria messes with our sleep hormones and our overall biochemistry. And I see the same thing with kids who have candida, other kinds of bacterial overgrowth in their intestines and so forth. So yeah, sleep is just like huge. I know my daughter, when she was at her worst and really had a pretty serious neuroimmune condition, needed 12 hours of sleep when all of her friends were getting like 7 and 8. And if she didn't get 11 to 12 hours of sleep, the next day was an absolute nightmare. So, also being aware that your child is different and might need more sleep, and that's okay. So I mentioned screen time. I won't go into that, but do you think that's a factor with your child? Do you feel like they're on their screens too much? And again, no judgment. I know sometimes like you need to do that, especially since COVID, parents are at home, they have to work. And, they're like, yeah, fine. If they're on their screen and they're out of my hair and I can get some work done, fine. Other things are toxins in the home, toxins in our environment. So toxins in your tap water, whether it's well water, city water, whatever the case may be. So that could be pesticides in the water, on the food being sprayed. It could be exhaust fumes. It can be the cleaning products we use, the bathroom products we use, all of that stuff. Very high rate of children with autism who test high for chemical toxicity. So definitely, do you think that could be a factor? And then again, going back to rhythms, is this a problem for your child with chronic stress and overscheduling? Is your child busier than maybe they could be or should be? Probably not as much these days with COVID, but do you think that could be a factor? I see that a lot in my practice with kids who are really introverted kids, and they're in hockey and they're in this and they're in that. And the parents maybe are more extroverted and can handle that, and they realize like maybe this is too much for my child. And I know for a lot of years, like my daughter is like even more of an introvert than I am, which is incredible. And she really loves her downtime. And we learned pretty quickly that her being at school all day and then trying to have her in some kind of activity during the week or something on the weekend was just way too much for her. And that almost seems to be the norm now. So we feel pressure like, I just have my child in school, as if they should be in something else. And it's totally okay if your child's not that child and, they're just instead playing outside with their friends or whatever. And the other thing I really firmly believe in is too little time in nature or outdoors. So it's great if kids are getting exercise. Maybe they love hockey and they're at a rink, a few times a week and they can handle that. But there's definitely something about being outdoors. We know that being outdoors builds the immune system. Being exposed to all those microbes, playing in the dirt is very, very good for the immune system. And there's a great book called Nature Deficit Disorder. I know the title sounds like, oh my God, here we come with another label. But that is a fantastic book that talks about how important nature is. We are part of nature and we evolved in it, and how much we need it to develop and our sensory systems, and how important it is for our mental, physical, and emotional health. So let me know, what culprits do you think could be a factor with your child? Which one would you like to start working on? What I see is parents become really overwhelmed when they try to do all of them at the same time. And that's definitely not what you want to do. So yes, you need to consider that in the past, people didn't really think a whole lot about this because it was just part of their life, right? Like they didn't think about, how am I going to meal plan? Like a huge portion of our lives in the past was around meal preparation, growing food, cultivating food, harvesting, canning, all that type of stuff. And it was just part of life. It wasn't like, how do I squeeze in meal prep, whenever I'm working till 6 o'clock in the evening and I have to be here at 8 o'clock or whatever the case may be. And they didn't have to think about exercise for the most part because it was built into their life. So don't try and, do it all at once, because it will probably just lead to failure, which is what I see so often when moms come to see me. They're like, I tried doing some of the stuff on my own and we just couldn't make it sustainable. So yeah, food prep took up the majority of our time. And then around the 1940s or 50s, the food industry really started taking over our food. We started having to prepped food for us, and that's when we started having all kinds of additives, and that's where all of a sudden making food became less of a priority. And a lot of us didn't even realize, our grandmothers or whatever, or parents didn't realize how these foods were really not so healthy. And thank God a lot of that has come to light in recent years. So also, I want to be really clear, life-saving interventions. I think I mentioned that last week. Life-saving interventions like antibiotics and C-sections, and so many other things in medicine have we would not want to live without them, and fantastic. But those definitely come with, some side effects, if you will. So we know based on the research, there's a huge body of evidence showing higher rates of autism with C-sections and even antibiotics, even Tylenol, higher usage of Tylenol, as well as dyslexia, and even reading disorders like dyslexia, as well as ADHD. Those kids tended to have more ear infections, as well as antibiotic usage, which would affect the auditory processing as well. So Barb, I'm seeing your comment that we noticed a huge change in our health when we moved to our new house. Yes. More time outside and better eating habits. That's fantastic. Really great, because I totally get you with the change of scenery. Sometimes all of a sudden, you can totally shift your family's rhythm. I'm actually selling my house is sold, and we're moving back more out to the country, and I'm really looking forward to even just simple things like no city lights, because I find that affects my sleep with it coming in the window, and I can't seem to find a blind that's good enough to block it out. So all of these little things that add up quite quickly. And then, so going back to antibiotics and so forth, my own daughter never had antibiotics when she was diagnosed with pandas and pans. And I thought, how can she have such high candida and all this bacterial stuff? But then I learned that my gut health, which was a disaster, I was on antibiotics constantly. When I was a kid, I had strep throat all the time, ear infections, and I know I had serious candida. And then I found out the gut health of the mother is passed on to the child, which is sometimes why we see children who have ADHD and autism running in the family. It's not always genetic. Sometimes it's because all of the kids have the mom's gut health, which is why with my programs, moms usually come to see me for the child they're most concerned about. But they have other kids that things are off, and we work on the whole family, and everybody starts doing a lot better when we start improving all of these factors. So bottom line is gut health equals brain health 100%. And again, just stuff like, Barb said, getting outside more and playing outside is really important. And that's what I find is, I go to my parents' neighborhood in Cornwall where I grew up, and it's so quiet now. It's so quiet. There's not kids running around playing and, wreaking havoc in the neighborhood. And kids are just inside on screens way too much. And never mind the outside, never mind the exercise, even play is so important for brain development and brain organization. The big push in schools, why they're going to play-based learning is because they're realizing how critical that play is in those first few years to develop the brain. Like Maria Montessori, who developed the Montessori school system, says that play is the career of the child. Our job is to go to work and make money, and their job is to play so they can build brains. So basically the bottom line is, if you want to make changes, do not overwhelm yourself. You want to do this smarter, not harder. You don't make any major changes that are going to make it unsustainable for both you and your child and make you feel like this isn't going to last. This is impossible. I'm not going to bother trying. This isn't going to work. And if you've done that in the past, now you know that's why you failed. It's just not going to work. In my 6-month program, I help people with these time savers and make them realize that they don't have to spend 6 hours in the kitchen every week. They learn things like batch cooking, pre-chopping everything on Sunday, so you're literally just throwing stuff in a pot or a pan and all kinds of other stuff. And even things like, are the kids helping you out at home, right? Like, I see so many moms who are just frazzled and their kids have no chores. Like, are your kids if they're old enough, are they helping you chop? Are they helping you put groceries away? Are they helping to clean the house? Like, is there chores that they can do that's going to free up some of your time so that you have more time to do the things that you know is going to be more healthy? So, if you have kids that are able, definitely have them pitch in, do those chores and so forth to give you more time and get them involved, give them that sense of responsibility. And again, so important for brain health, emotional development, resilience, and so much more. And that can be another thing that can be tricky to weave in whenever you haven't been doing. If your kids say like 10 or 11 and all of a sudden you're going to start doing chores and you're worried there's going to be mutiny, you can do it. You have to ease into it and set the stage and be consistent and explain to them why you're doing this. I think we are really focused on having kids involved in sports and this and that. And we think, it's really important to teach them teamwork and leadership and responsibility, but we have that opportunity to do that at home as well, to contribute to the family. And there's actually a ton of research that has found that kids who do these things actually have, kids who help out at home more have higher self-esteem, are less likely to get into drugs and so forth, because they understand that they are valuable to the family, not just kind of this, little prince or princess where everybody needs to, dote on them and so forth. So I'm curious, do your kids help out at home? Do you feel like that is something that could be something that you could be shifting? If you're interested in my program, it's a 6-month program where people learn how to weave in these habits, how to improve their child's brain health and brain organization through gut healing, proper nourishment, strengthening weak connections with brain integration exercises, and basically getting you away from trying to do it all on your own. That often is destined for failure, but definitely don't try to do it all at once. So if you want to kind of get started on something, I do have a starter kit. I'm going to post the link in the comments below. If you haven't grabbed that already, it has some exercises and my one best tip for what to do to start nourishing your child's brain to get them more focused and better able to learn and so forth. And, if you like this video, share, and don't hesitate to set up a free Better Brain Breakthrough session to learn more about my program. Thanks for watching.